Uh, and servus, grüezi, and welcome not to the best, not your favorite podcast, but your favorite people host, your favorite breaking show. And my guest, this time all the way from beautiful USA, representing the Lions of Zion. Make some noise for DJ Fleg.
Woo!
What's up?
Yay!
First of all,
What's
thank you
good?
so much for taking your time. Uh, I always try to have guests that inspire me and inspire the scene. And I always like at the beginning to give you your flowers, like you say nowadays, right? So shout outs to you, bro. Shout outs for everything you did for the scene and keep on doing your creativity, your originality. You made the scene better and you will leave the scene better. So thank you. I met you. You're a really humble guy. And I think it's very important to say and give respect to all the people in the scene who are doing stuff like you.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. No, it's much respect. Like it's that's exactly what I feel like any of us are here to do, and if we can successfully do it, and also, like when someone else mentioned, it, I'd be like, oh, thanks, man. It's not something that I think about, but it's like
Yeah.
it's cool. It's like, yeah, to be able to just be yourself, be creative in whatever way you are, and then infuse that into the scene, whether it's in your breaking music, in how you do events and hosting, whatever it might be. That if you can even just make a little bit of a mark or just have an influence that's positive, and then people bring that forward to their generations and all of that, I'm happy to have been a part of that, and continue to be a part of it.
100%. And it's made much doper that you're also a good character, a good person, because you know how it is. Like you say, never meet your heroes, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Turns out they're all assholes.
You never know. This I could turn in the span of this
Oh shit.
interview.
Okay, okay,
It could
okay.
get really, don't speak too soon, man. It could get really bad. Who knows? I'm gonna be like, yeah, fuck that guy. Oh, that guy's that's the worst. No, no, I don't like it. I don't like your questions. Next
Never,
question.
never
What if I
book,
just,
never book
yeah, that,
again.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So no, but I think I'll be able to keep it together. I think I can keep
Yes.
it together.
So, of course, most people know you're also a b-boy, right? So,
Mhm.
when did you start your breaking career?
So I started breaking in '99.
Mhm.
That's when I guess I just was just captivated by it when I saw like little brief segments of people doing it at that time.
I mean, around
It's
that time, there was the big boom again, right?
it was a big boom again, but I was still in middle school at the time, and so the ability for me to be like, even simple things like you have a credit card to go, pay for this VHS tape and get whatever, just wasn't happening at that point. So I was into skating, and I would see little bits of breaking, like just within some of the skate videos that I was watching. And I was just like, it was like this tiny little flash of like, whoa, shit, that looked amazing. And then I was like, how like I just remember thinking like I need to do that. That's like there's just no question. Like I got to do that. But it was such a cool kind of thing where it was so brief that it like left you wanting so much more. And so, I was just captivated by it and wanted to learn how to do it. And that was like the beginning of me attempting to try it, but it was like there's just very little footage circulating around for whatever 13, 14-year-old kid. Like
I
at
mean,
that time, there's
I
no
mean,
YouTube, there's none
99,
of that. Yeah. Yeah.
99, we talk pre-internet era,
Yeah,
and that,
I was like right on that cusp, and then I was there with the internet era. But even like the lesser, very little talked about, but like for people, if you were in a in the suburbs, if you didn't have someone who was like a mentor, someone to kind of like show you the ropes and whatever, you were like, all right, we just got to learn these moves on our own, however we can with
no,
whatever footage we have.
no.
And then also with like when the internet began to have stuff about breaking, there was breakdance.com, which was literally a website
You
that
had
had
you had breakdance.com?
there's a breakdance.com. Yep. And literally that website was like it was still pre the era of really being able to have videos. So it's like you weren't able to see videos, or like, videos at that time took like even for a quick clip of something,
Ah,
it took like a whole day
did
to download them.
the right click on your mouse, save target under, and then
Yeah, but then it would take for like a short, I don't know what it had to be like 3 MB video, and it would take forever, and you would use
I
another
remember.
service like Kazaa, or you use
Uh,
one of those services to download it. But in this case, it didn't require downloading. It was just breakdance.com, and it had all the moves listed, and like a lot of them were like weird names that weren't the correct
Ah,
names,
okay.
and then it would have step-by-step instructions on it too. Put your left hand where your right foot was,
Oh, man,
then
that's dope. I
see,
never heard about. Is it still
yeah,
live?
it's a good question. That's a good question if it is or not.
Breakdance.com, you say?
Yeah, you can look at it. But like that was the level of lack of information that you were dealing with at that time if you weren't in a city or if you weren't like, raised and had this mentor, someone to kind of bring you
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
completely in a sea of like lost
It's
in
gone.
sea.
It's
It's
gone.
gone.
It's not.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. So that was one reference that again a
I
lot of
mean,
people, it depends how you come up. Again, a lot of people I think were and it's so dope when people were blessed enough to have really good mentorship from like a crew, from people that knew a foundation, that knew other things like that. I never had that. So it was always like, hey, I'm just with my friends. And also we're, pre-internet or just getting to internet era. So it's like whatever information you can scrape off the internet to figure out how to do something, that's how you were going to go about learning a move. And so inevitably I learned a lot of moves wrong. So like I'm like 2-3 years into breaking, I'm like, oh, you're supposed to do footwork, like that, not flat handed. And so there were things like that I had to correct, you know, basically now at the point 3 years in, people are, doing air flares, doing these other things. And I was just like, time to correct your basic footwork form at 3-4 years in. So that was the era of it. But I'm not mad. It made me into who I am, and it made me also really want it because you had to want it. You had to really like go after it. It wasn't going to be placed in front of you at all. So I happened to do that, and then followed those steps through being a b-boy and then also into being a DJ and all of that. But starting from that point of just like being amazed by it and then be like, how do I do this?
I mean, I started in 2000, so I totally feel all the things you said now. I can
Whoops.
totally
Yeah.
relate to them. I remember we always had Bboy World, right? And then new school footage section, and then we watched the new videos. And I remember there was a clip of Moy, that 10-second clip. He did Air Baby on one hand.
Yeah.
I downloaded it for like 15 minutes, and it was a 15-second clip. I remember this so.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, like that one, or there's a couple of those, and it would be one, not even a full round of a breaker. It would be like one segment of the round. It was dope, but it would give you an idea of like, oh, this
Of course.
is a possible move. Like, oh, Arabic, like, I never even thought that. Like,
Mhm.
okay, this is something I could do now. Or there was a big one that certain people watching might remember, maybe you as well, as Nightcrawler, B-Boy Nightcrawler.
Till
That
now, his windmill 1.5. This is till now.
Yes, exactly.
Art of
That's
beauty.
like it's like burned in your
Yeah.
mind because you saw that. So another same thing probably took like an hour to download it, whatever it was, 3 to 6 second clip, something like that. And then you saw him do windmill and push up all the way to 1.5, but then his legs coming together to baby formation and then landing in babies.
So nice.
Nuts.
So just
So nuts. Yeah.
so beautiful. Till this day, it's beautiful. You know.
It really is. And some of that power, we'll digress a little bit. We could get back to this, but some of that power from that era was always so dope. Sometimes even if people didn't make the moves, but especially when they did, because everything was really momentum based. So like everyone was like, "Oh, we're doing power. This got to be fast as fuck. We gotta like whip it, boom, boom into that." And then so when you are whipping it hardcore, doing it really fast, and then you're lifting up to your 1.5, feet come together to babies. It just looks insane. And then especially like at that time, I don't know about you, but for me, I didn't even think about, it was almost like you're seeing this one move that looks crazy, not even the connection of different moves. So yeah, maybe I'd recognize the windmill, but then him pushing up and I'm like, okay, like air flares continuous weren't really common at that time, but then he's also doing a 1.5. You're like, wait, what the fuck is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
And then he's going
yeah,
right
yeah.
into babies. It was just like kind of
It was
mind
it was
blowing.
it was that kind of move you're not even thinking about practicing it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
it was
Not even thinking it's
untouchable for you. It was
not e-
part of
oh,
free.
of course, untouchable, and also like just not even thinking it's possible. So you see it and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait, what?
Yeah,
Like, let
I
me. I gotta go back
remember
to that
I grew up watching a lot Rock Force. I love Reveal till this day.
for
And
sure.
his one of his burns was he did like oh, I forgot how it's called, the gator. He did the gator, and then he rolled back and then he did the roll up into the freeze.
Yes, Gainer, yeah, it's a
He did
rollback.
it, and he did it with one hand. You know,
Oh yeah.
we watched the VHS and we rewind, huh? And then what? He uses one hand?
You're like, how? Like,
How is
and then
that
you're like
possible?
going, you're like chilling on the floor. You're like, wait a minute, what are
Yeah,
like you're trying to figure out the mechanics of it. You're like, what? So
yeah.
like, so when he goes back, his hand has to be in this position, and
How?
then yeah,
How?
like,
And
yeah,
our whole crew practiced that, and then that was our routine. Five guys did backflip, roll up, one hand.
that's dope. Yeah, yeah. I mean, eventually, it is funny. It's like a lot of this stuff is very interesting, and it's a very interesting like human psychological thing going on too. But it's kind of like within like running, like there's like within sprinting, there's a 100-meter dash world record. And then someone's like, oh shit, you could do it that fast. And then shockingly, but not shockingly, but something to do with like human collective psychology is like then that gets broken. Like it had never been broken before a certain time. Then that gets broken 2 years after it. You know what I mean? Like all throughout time, every time it had been measured, no one had ever run this fast. And then all of a sudden, within the span of like 10 years, after one person showed that it could be done, then a bunch of other people did it. And then the finish line, no pun intended, but the finish line or the goalposts move to even shorter amounts. Like, and same thing with like a lot of breaking moves, like, oh shit, that was crazy. That looks like almost like superhuman, only one person can do that. Then you kind of figure out the mechanics of it. A bunch of people do, and soon your whole crew is doing the
Okay.
rollback,
Just one guy needs to figure it out, and he can teach it to the rest of them. I mean, if we just look at air flare, the evolution of air flare,
Yeah,
99. I
exactly.
remember in 2000, Benny did 12 air flares, and it was like, what the fuck? Bboy Mute from Expression, he did 25 in 2001, and that was like, how? And now,
And you knew that there was just to my point the same thing. It was like you knew that it was like okay, Benny, and I remember that like that was like
that was year
legendary.
2000.
But yeah, and legendary powerhead. But you knew it was just like okay, that's an insane move. But I think maybe like tough kid Benny Moy, like I could count on one hand
Yeah,
the
yeah,
amount
yeah,
the
yeah,
amount
yeah.
of the amount of people in the
Yes.
world that can do that. So it was just like there's an specialty move, but like it's so hard that literally only like these top few people can do it. Now we come to realize that like yeah, once you start to understand those mechanics
Yeah.
exactly, okay, it turns out a
What I
lot of
wanted
people
to
can do it,
what I wanted to say is, and now you look 25 years later, we have a 10-year-old Chinese
oh yeah,
who does 100
138 50
158 G.
58 crazy, yeah.
And for me, the crazier thing is not the number, it's the length. She does it 3 minutes. Like how can you do a move for 3 minutes?
It's insane stamina, it's obviously the mechanics are there but also just stamina is
I
like
say
good
only kids
god.
can do this. I say only kids can do this. Only kids.
that
No,
that's true, that is
no
true,
adult has this stamina because kids have stamina forever. They're not practicing. So I say only
yeah,
kids can do this.
stamina, and then they just have like so much less body weight to throw around
Yeah, this is
that
the point.
I think something about that makes it that like oh yeah, I can just keep doing this
I
like
mean, this girl
like a
has
little kid
50
like oh
pounds
let's
on
just
her. This fifth girl maybe has 50
probably
pounds on
yeah,
her, 60
yeah.
pounds. So
And it's like even when you get into someone who has perfect air flare form and that can do it so many in a row, but then you start to double that and then they're 100 pounds or like 120,
mm,
kind of like there's a lot of guys who smaller guys, they're thin and they really have to move down, but
yeah.
still just increasing that weight is going to make it like I don't know, maybe they'll get to like 50, 60, and then it's just like they're not gonna be able to do anymore.
In how the last before she did that, I think Malish did like 100 or something, or somebody else. I don't know, like 80 or 90 was the most.
Yeah,
158 is
that's crazy. Yeah. We'll
it,
see if
it,
that gets broken ever. I mean, it might be, again, now it's possible, but it might get broken also by another kid.
it's another kid who will break it
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But you started 99. But do you remember before 99, the first thing that you saw that was hip hop? Was it like a video? Was it a song? Was it the graffiti?
Yeah, so Saw would be less, applicable than heard because yeah, it was like I, grew up listening to a lot of hip hop. My oldest brother, had a bunch of tapes. Like he would buy tapes. He was getting into hip hop, and that was like, you know, very early 90s. So I was exposed to a lot of stuff, and that was all we listened to. So it's kind of funny because I actually started to get, into like alternative rock or stuff like that, or just rock
Okay.
music later on, much later on. Like, I was in like middle school. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But there was almost like a little bit of like a divide. Like in my house, I was like, we don't like, my dad is a jazz musician, trumpeter, come from a musical family, but the musicality of it is like jazz, soul, that kind of stuff. I mean, my dad had upon later looking through his record collection had Manu Dibango in his record collection. So it's like that's my upbringing, despite not ever claiming to grow up like in a all black or Latino environment where you have all that stuff as like cultural, but it's just like in my household where music was being played, it was jazz and Latin jazz, other things like that. So then when my brother, I guess having some of those that in his head, when he was like, I want to do my own thing and find music, he aired towards hip hop, and a lot of it sampled jazz as well. And so like that was the stuff that I heard growing up. And we had there's 4 kids in my family. I'm the youngest, and so like we were always doing activities and driving all over the place, like for different like basketball games or like rec league stuff and all of that. So every time we're in the car, we're listening to hip hop radio. So all of that stuff from that era, whether it was like what was on the radio in the Baltimore area and DC too. So, a lot of those local exposures of like Go-Go or Baltimore Club, those very, city specific types of sounds, or just hip hop in general. That's what I was listening to early 90s. So that's where my background of that stuff is. It's like not like I grew up, straight up listening to that more so than anything else.
That's amazing. Like you guys in the USA, you already had a hip hop radio station,
Yeah.
and we
Not
in
we
Europe,
had four. We had four.
even
There were
four,
four.
and in
It was four.
Europe,
So it's like you go to one and then you didn't like it. You're like, all right, 90GQ didn't like that. 93.9, I don't like that. 95.5, okay, didn't like that. V103, those were the four major stations that, because again, I was right between Baltimore and DC. So we would get like two DC stations and two Baltimore ones. Yeah, it was just right there for us.
I grew up in Austria, I'm born in Vienna. I moved with 18 years, I moved to Switzerland. Bro, we had nothing. When you heard some rap songs, it was just because it was the most popular one at that time.
Interesting. Yeah.
We were Changes, Changes was like crazy. You heard that every day, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but you never
So
heard like nothing but a G-Tang or Still DIE, something, or some DMX, nothing, nothing.
yeah, it's crazy because I remember that stuff thinking about like ain't nothing like a G thing, or gin and juice,
Mhm.
like in my mom's caravan, like old ass 1990s
Yeah.
caravan, listening to that, and it's summertime, and like yeah, I'm just a
That's
kid,
so
like yeah.
nice. That's amazing. Of course, it's also in your country is where it's originated, so it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's part of it that like um again, I didn't exactly come from the exact environment, so I
Yeah.
never claimed that. It's like, oh, I was, in the hood and I was listening to this. So it's like there's still blind spots that I have, but there
Mhm.
is this larger, especially because again, family wise, we were into it. There's just like a pretty long standing absorption
Mhm.
from my end of all of that music, and that I'm definitely, it's a blessing to be able to
Did
have that
you
because that's just my reference of a lot of these songs
did you
is.
always wanted to do something with music later when you grow up, also as a kid?
I don't know if I like specifically thought of it. I was just always, I enjoyed it a lot, and especially like getting into high school. Then that's when I started to get even more like, and breaking helped too, where it's just like, hey, this idea of now you can start looking for the music you really like.
Mhm.
I went hardcore into that high school, and I had a couple other good high school friends that again, it's funny, we're all just like suburban kids of different kind of backgrounds, but no none culturally as tied to it, like, oh, this is like what everyone, like, oh, everyone in my family listens to salsa or listens
Yeah.
to whatever, or is a hip hop head. It's like, no, like my friends dad was like listening to I don't know, Bon Jovi or like Springsteen or whoever. But he, and a lot of the rest of us, or he was a little bit different from me. I did grow up with the jazz and that stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
even him, he had that mentality of like, well, I want to learn more. So then he would be like, oh, I just brought this like Tribe album. Let's listen to this back to front, front to back. And so just having both myself, but a couple of us that were into let's discover new dope music was also helpful for me to like keep growing and trying to like I don't know, just go down that route of like, okay, there's the music I grew up with, I like that, I have that connection with it. Now let's like dig like a little bit deeper maybe into hip-hop, but also beyond it, and then getting into the original records, the
yeah,
records that were sampled.
yeah,
that
yeah.
was that was during high school when I
So
really
going to the
started
roots.
to,
Yes, yes.
yeah, that was when I really started to get into that.
Nice, nice. So, also, I said in the beginning, you represent Lions of Zion, right? And
Yeah,
they have a rich history, right? It's
they do.
how old is the crew right now?
I think that the crew next year it will celebrate our 30th
That's
anniversary.
amazing.
So starting at
That
96.
that's crazy. So how can you tell us the story how you met the guys and how you joined them?
Yeah, I mean, so like when I was breaking, and I'm still break some, it's just sometimes, there's injuries, but there's also like when I have time between
You're
doing music
always
things.
injured. No b-boy
Yeah,
b-girl is 100%.
yeah, it sucks. And it sucks when it's like reoccurring. So, but in any case, so I was like some that to say it's like when I say when I was breaking, but it's like no, I'm still breaking. But when I was breaking, probably more, a lot more, and really in the scene there, I was, and this is by there I mean because I'm in New York now. When I was down in the Maryland area, where I'm from. I would already start going out to jams by like 2001. That's when I first went to my first jam down there, and the Lionz Design were already around. I may not have known them, but I know maybe specific people. And then especially by like 2002, 2003, I was just like, oh, Toys. He's now my crewmate, but super young, but like just killing it, and already had insane amounts of moves. And a lot of these other people, in the crew, like Scrambles, Ghosts, those people, you just see them at these different events. So the first exposure to them was not being in the crew at all. It was just seeing them killing it and seeing them be at this very high level. Noob Zybot as well. There's a couple main characters of people that were just really, really dope at the time. And so, yeah, like I saw them first before I was anything even remotely considered being a part of the crew. I just saw them at jams and saw them killing it. And then it wasn't until much, much later, 2011 when I was actually put down. And that's
Okay.
because like I kind of, yes, it was a lot later. I had to get a lot better first because I got put down, partially as DJ, but also as a b-boy. Like, because I was breaking with them, battling with them, all that. But I had to kind of show and prove that I was doing my thing, that I was taking it seriously,
Yeah.
and that I was actually practicing. So I was doing a lot of practicing, many times a week, and really going in, and then learning a lot from Toys and some of the other members of the crew. But I think around that time, Isaiah was put down slightly before me, but like me, um, I think Mario and Soapy, who I don't know if people know him, Ills as well. Like we all got put down around that same time, around 2011, when Toys was like so really actively training and trying to just like get things moving and get us to have kind of a generation that we weren't like new, but still like
Mhm.
mid early 20s at the time, and just trying to like revamp things, keep things like active from the crew to have more people to battle with and to be able to make some
So you
noise.
already knew them long time, and then it just like came natural. They said like, "Hey, Flag, you know."
Yes. Yeah. So I knew them a while, and then I was practicing with them a lot. That's where it came from.
Yeah,
Practicing with them, hanging out,
yeah,
proper crew shit. And then
yes, yes,
that's when it was like, okay,
yes,
you want to get down. I was just like,
yes,
let's
yes,
go.
yes.
Yeah.
And of course, you say around that time, 11, 12. I think that's when toys popped up, right? And then also Donkey came a little bit later, and then of course Isaiah, how you mentioned. And
Yeah.
when these three battled, I mean, they could
Oh, they're
smoke
crazy.
everybody on the world.
Yeah, they're crazy.
They could have smoked everybody in the world. With, they're so original. their characters, their moves, its difficulty is high,
Yeah,
you know. So they had really, really complete.
super. Yeah,
So
super difficult. Sorry, it froze for a second. But yeah, go for it.
yeah, nowadays, I guess the guys still dance, but we don't really see them in the battle scene anymore. They still keep on practicing or they stop.
Yeah, good question. Some of them is still practicing, but then also, like I think Dom has just sort of had enough. Like he did it what he wanted to do, and then he's just not trying to go through the whole battle scene thing. He's
Yeah,
just like he has his own life and he's happy with it, and he'll come out and maybe support some jams.
yeah,
We'll hang out, we'll have friends, but he's just not really like driven to like, oh, I have to do this, because a lot of those guys. So it's funny. There, I get it. There's the era when I think maybe more Europeans, started to be, taking notice of them, and
mhm,
when those guys started traveling to Europe, to France a lot, to these other
yeah,
places. But like I remember seeing Dom killing in like 2003. I remember seeing
yeah,
Toys killing in 2003.
yeah.
Like those guys were again around my age. But then Toys like a little bit younger, Dom around my age. But then they were just like so much better, and they were just good immediately from a young age. And I saw them killing it, all around the U.S., like around me, but then around the U.S. as well for so many years. So I think
Yeah.
Toy started traveling a lot, probably to just different jams, even overseas, maybe by like 2007, eight, something like that, and
World
then
People
continuing to do
Classics.
so for a good 3, 4, 5 years, like you said.
World People Classics is first time I saw Toys when he got invited there. It was like maybe
Okay,
2008 or 2009.
yeah. What was that? 2012.
I know the World People Classic started 2009 and he was there like the second or third edition maybe. Or maybe it was 2000
Okay, so even
some like this. And I remembered him, of course, his signature, the move on the elbow freeze on the tip, right?
yeah,
And
the Albertine, yeah.
he had like a move. He did like a swipe, and then he turned around and he started with the. It's so crazy, and that
Oh
always,
yeah. I remember that one. That was just good.
there was like burned in my mind. Always when I think about Toys, I see him get down like this. So shout outs to him,
Yeah,
Donkey and Isaiah, really dope b-boys, uh, really nice. So shout outs to them too, definitely.
big time, yeah. And Toy is the same thing. He's just like chilling. He's had some injuries too, so I think like
Yeah.
that's kind of stopped him. But he's still, from like doing too much. But like, he's just doing his thing. People are just kind of living their life. Isaiah has a kid now. Isaiah's like, and I think a lot of them could still
Nice,
break and
nice.
and still like. I know I see occasional videos of even Dom like where obviously it's crew and I'm cool with them, but it's like we don't even. I'm like, Dom, are you practicing? You're not like we don't even go into that. But then I'll see him put out a video and it's just like, oh shit, yeah, he has all of his moves. And maybe even some new ones. I'm like, man, you still got it. You're still good.
Of
But
course.
again, they're just busy with these other portions of their
Yeah.
life, and they're not trying to, necessarily be hardcore into the battle scene
I
like
mean,
they
now
were.
we're adults, right? Back then we were kids, we had more time. Now we're adults, we have bills, we have wives, we have girlfriends, everything, you know? So, yeah. So let's
Yeah,
get a little bit into DJing, right? So, you started
go
break
for it. Yeah.
first, and when did you start to have interest in spinning?
So DJing, I probably started around 2000, 2001. That was like getting turntables. But again, it was similar to what I talked about with breaking, where it was just like there's no real people, to mentor you. I had some people that did a little bit, which was super cool. Shout out to DJ Daddio, Fresh Mama. Those were two. It was a couple that threw events called Breakers Delight in our area, and they were like one of the main ones throwing events in the Maryland area that were big, and they would get people from New York and all over to come through to it. But anyway, like they would help out where they could to like just with certain ideas. This was probably more around 2002, 2003 to like really just have certain ideas about be helping me to learn how to spin, things like that. But in general, it was mostly like autodidact, meaning like learning it yourself, So it was like I got turntables because I was like, I want to learn how to scratch. That was it. I just want to learn how to scratch. And then, I started trying to do that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna DJ for breaking events. Oh, I'm gonna do this. Like, no, I just like I want to learn how to I like that sound. That sounds cool. How do I
Perfect.
do that?
That's
That was it.
that's amazing. And back then, of course, there was no Serato, right? There was no laptop. So
No,
you still had to
nope.
dig and find vinyls. So do you remember
Yeah,
like the first couple you bought and you practiced your scratches too?
yeah, for sure. I mean, and some of that time too, it's like there's multiple ways of digging,
Mhm.
and there's like the kind of like um I don't know how to put this exactly, but it's like there's like the original way, which like is something that I had to be taught a little bit, where it's like you're looking for all of the original records and you're finding, doubles of them and being able to spin them,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
Eventually I started to do that around like 2003. I had some friends that they were kind of like mentors for digging specifically.
Mhm.
Shout out John Logan, Everett, and the homie Mike. They were the ones that really helped to like be like, oh, this is how you dig. This is how you do like you know the version of it where it's like you're looking at years, you're looking at musicians, you're looking
Okay.
at all these things. There's records that maybe you start to know about that, this has this sample or this has this drum break, but then in terms of also discovering new things, like I don't know what's on this record, but you use these clues. That kind of digging is like the OG, like proper digging.
Mhm.
I wasn't doing that yet when I first started. So when the first records that I was using would be from like more like easily findable records, that you're finding kind of at places that just it wasn't like digging, but it was just like, hey, here's this like it was new records at the time. So it
Yeah.
could be like a Talib Kweli record, or I remember I had a Common record, and it was just like you would get like a Common record and it would have an instrumental on it, and then you got another record that's like Marshmallow Breaks or Super Duck Breaks, which were the records that had the scratch samples on it. The like all these different, like the
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
sample, different vocal stabs. That's what all the battle DJs were using. And so that was like, if you
Ah,
want to learn how to
okay.
scratch, at least you have one record that has all of the sounds together. So I'd buy an instrumental, you put that on the one side, and then the other side, and then you just in your room, like doing that the
Ah,
whole,
so
day.
they didn't use double, they used was singular and another was just for scratching sounds.
It depends. Yeah. So it depends what you're trying to do. If you're learning, yeah, just how to learn how to scratch, you have one side that's the instrumental, and then one side is the sound. But again,
Mhm.
some of these records, they press them. So like certain DJs made a record specifically for people to scratch. So it had all the different sounds you might want to scratch from, and you find the sound, and then you just practice it. That's for scratching. For doubles, again, it would be like not like OG, like digging, like looking for, I don't know, two copies of a James Brown break or Dexter Wansell or something like that. You were just getting IRAs. I was just getting, I was broke as at the time too. So it's like
Of
the cheapest, the cheapest single. It didn't matter what it was. The cheapest single that had, an instrumental on it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of what it was. I think, it's on the tip of my tongue, but like
I mean,
it
it's
was
a
just
long
like,
time ago, bro, so don't worry.
yeah, but it would be just like a local record, so something that was like the cheapest possible. And I found two copies of it at one of the stores, a local hip hop record, and then that's where you would practice beat juggling. So
Yeah.
boom, got doom, it would boom, dot
Yeah,
doom,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
dot it would boom, dot doom, dot doom, 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 like that. That's what you would be practicing to, learn your juggles. But yeah, no Serato, no none of that. So
Yeah.
you had to find two copies of the record. But what
Yes.
I'm saying is, like, at that point, the two copies of the records that I was finding wasn't like I was like digging hardcore for it. It was just like, well, this is the easiest possible. Here are two hip hop records. They're quantized. It's an instrumental that go on, and you're just like, able to kind of the
I
slower
mean,
tempo, and you're able to learn
mhm.
how to do that whole thing, the whole juggling
I mean,
thing.
like you say, you didn't have a specific goal in mind. You just wanted to learn how to scratch, and then you
Yes,
just went step by step where
yes,
where it takes you, right?
yeah.
So
Scratch, and juggle. That was
who
it.
is this guy? What's his name? Who is responsible for you going to battles and play battles? You
It's a good question. Like when I decided, like who was the first person,
like
or who was the
somebody asked you and said, "Hey, Flag, I see you spinning and you're doing a good job. Can you come to my event and play the battles?" Like,
yes, yeah. So but first, before that would happen, it was like I had to get past the like, oh, I'm just learning how to scratch. There's still DJs that like, are, to their credit, super dope at scratching and juggling. but then it's like, well, what's your vibe musically? And it's just like they're so concentrated on being, you know, just really dope at scratching and juggling
Mhm.
that musically either they don't have a vibe or personally it's not a vibe that like I really dig. So sometimes they're so caught up on that that they're like only doing that. I'm like, at a certain point, I realized like, well, I want to use this as a tool or like, you know, use this as a skill within the context of DJing, but
Mhm.
DJing music that I really like.
I
So
mean,
the
the, the
next
the music you choose is more important than the technique, right?
yeah, there's you still need the technique, but yeah, exactly. And so you want to build a sound off of like what is the music, you know, that you choose, which your ear hears, and that you kind of string together. So after learning some of the basic technique stuff, then it was like again that same time that with my friends we were just like exploring and learning different types of music. Then it became about like, well, what music can I discover? And like I said, my friends that sort of helped me go start being like, look at the label, look at the year, look at the personnel. Like, oh, Ralph McDonald, he's on percussion. This might be ill. I don't know the song, but I'm recognizing some of these names. And that's the part where it's like, then it was a couple of years of like starting to actually do the proper digging and trying to get, you know, records that
Mhm.
either I knew, but a lot of times ones that I didn't know that are like, oh, this would be dope. And that's where I started discovering stuff where I'm like, hey, I've never heard someone in a breaking context play this. This
Yeah,
would be dope.
yeah.
So somehow I think just by starting to do that and maybe DJing like something like very small, I was given the opportunity by the homie Monk, shout out Monk, who in 2005, I think I played my first jam
Ah,
ever,
nice.
and it was just like a portion of a jam, and it was great, you know. And I played a combination of stuff like things I had dug for because I had already been making you know, trips to New York to here
Mhm.
to get records, and
But you
then
still played vinyl then?
yeah, it was all vinyl. So I do all vinyl, but that was also like it was funny just because everything again, whether it's breaking or DJing, everything just moves so much faster. Like I'll see people that are like, oh, you know, I learned how to DJ last month. I'm playing my first gig this weekend or something like that. I'm like, bruh, I DJ'd or DJ'd. Like I was learning for like, you know, whatever, 5 years. And then I played one gig. Then I didn't play another gig for another 3 years.
Yes,
Like it
yes.
was like I did one and, you know, but it wasn't like I was like, I'm going to do this. It was just like, well, this is a cool opportunity. I mean, you know, if I could do it again and get better, that would be great. And I did. The next time I think I spun was 2008. Like I said, after another
You
three
you
years, I
didn't
spun
force
again.
it, right? You didn't force it.
No, no, yeah. And there wasn't an expectation. It's like, oh, now I'm a DJ. Okay, like I could start to really gain my following and show how cool I am. Take a video of me, put it on an IG, put it on TikTok. Like, look at me. And the DJ, it was just like, no, like you do it. And it was cool for the time, but then it wasn't like you had to push to automatically be like, well, now that I've done it once where I've set my mind to it, I'm going to be a professional DJ. I mean,
Yeah.
for some people, if they did that and they were dope and were able to quickly rise in ranks, like shout out to them. But I think
Uh,
generally that wasn't happening like that. Everything was a little bit more like, yo, put in your time, figure it out. Maybe not that much time that I did, but it was just like
I
figure
mean,
the shit out first, you know,
I mean,
before you start putting yourself out there.
you can hear from your stories now that you really like to be prepared. And when you do something, you want to do it right and the right way and not force it and make it faster just to be successful in anything, you know?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So
And
if you do it the right way, take your time, learn all the shit, learn all the basics, and then you can
yeah,
do your own thing, right?
well, and like, you know, again, the going back to breaking, you know, so not just talking about the DJs that are learning super quickly, you see that in breaking too. And I just see a lot of people that like, I'm like, yo, props to your abilities because obviously, like, you know, it's better than mine. You have certain moves that you're already getting, but you seriously lack a basic
Yeah.
foundation. And people will be like, oh, roll the eyes, like, oh, old heads talking about foundation, this or that. And I'm not even talking just about like, oh, I want to see a full six step. I want to see that. No,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm also talking about basic composition. There's something currently, not to go off on too much of a rant, but like there is something currently, and I know all the older breakers or all the even some of the younger ones, but that are very good and that are judging, they see it. And I'm just like, it's a composition thing. And it's like without, you know, you would have to show examples of it to really make the point. And sometimes it's actually kind of hard to explain,
Mhm.
but the composition is totally off. It's totally like people switching directions where it makes no sense, and then their moves have no directionality to them. It just looks like bleh, bleh, bleh. It's as if me talking like, and instead of having a full sentence, I'm like, hey, yeah, beat DJ, Dixon Records. That's the breaking equivalent of what I'm
I
seeing
mean,
out these days, and it's
nowadays there is
because
like a sorry, there's like a formula nowadays, right? And it was never easier to catch music like nowadays, you know,
of course,
because now everybody knows when the thing comes, ten,
yeah.
then it comes to scratch, you know. So it's people
But
also
there's
get lazy then, you know what I mean?
they do get lazy, but that's still I agree that that's easier, and it gets lazy, and it's also sometimes that takes you know it takes focus instead of just like, well, how's your groove, how do you whatever, how do you hit a not obvious beat,
Yeah.
how do you pace your footwork with the music, like all your hooks on snares, all
Yes.
your like certain things. There's a lot of people that aren't paced at all, but that's what I'm saying is like there's a lot of these foundational compositional things is aside from the music maybe being easier, this or that, it's also just like technically that should make it easier for you to have to compose things well. And I still see horrible composition of just again like just random direction changes, random like ugh, like that's like gross, you know. And so again, I think that going back to what we're talking about is like, so for me and DJing, it's just like you don't have to rush it. Like figure out what your flow is, make it natural, learn by really studying people, and then figuring out how you're going to compose things together. Same thing with breaking, and don't just be like, oh, I've learned this for a couple of years. Right now,
Mhm.
I'm at the level to be able to battle at this big battle.
Yeah.
Some people move wise they might be there, but I'm just like again their composition is off, and it comes from a lack of really
And just
studying foundation in every sense of the word, not just like again, oh, we're studying foundation means 6-step, 3-step, your CC's like no, it means studying what the motion of dope breaking looks like, which tends to be in a circle. It'll be a circle, it'll stop, it'll do something here, it'll be another part of the circle, but it will still have this circular thing going to it. And then when it makes sense, it goes front to back, and then it completes back in a circle. These things that like I can't put into exact words of what the perfect formula is, but you just start to
I mean there
intuitively
is none.
understand it,
There is
and
none.
that's a part of that foundation. And if you rush it, you're gonna be like, well, here's a bunch of cool moves strung together. I'm like, yeah, but just like my sentence before, it didn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
I don't know how else to tell you that it didn't make sense besides it doesn't make visual sense, you
Mhm.
know. And so, yeah, just a
Everything
side rant, but it's
nowadays.
something that's important that's lacking when you don't study the foundation in every sense of it.
Yes, and back then you had to learn everything, right? Because nowadays everything is much easier. It's easier to be a photographer, it's easier to be a dancer, it's easier to be a
For
DJ.
sure.
No, and then people because they can just press a button, you know, and then they don't care about what was before, who did this, who did that, you know. So, like you say, guys, if you want to learn a craft, then learn it from the beginning until the end, you know.
Yeah, just study and study every aspect of the
Yes,
foundation, because
not
I think
only
that
one
some
aspect.
people, right, I think some people think it's this one thing and they're like, oh, I can do that. Number one, they can't. I'll see people like, oh, I can do 6 steps, like yeah, but it looks horrible, you know, or I could do this, it's like it looks horrible. But that aside, that's only one aspect of it. And the more
Definitely.
like, bro, like I'll for anyone watching this, like I'm dead serious, start thinking about what, if you're younger, if you're older, I'm not trying to preach to a choir or pretend like I know something
It's
more,
over.
but I literally, you know, I think people forget that I see breaking at the very highest levels everywhere in the world. And most of the people at those highest levels too are my friends and people I know very well. And so we'll have these discussions so I know I'm not crazy, and I know that like, oh, you know, there's like I'm not just like you know, out of touch and doing an old man rant. It's like no, everyone thinks the same thing. Phil Wizard just had a little segment about it, about another thing about just everyone looking like Stripes.
Oh
I've said
my
this for
God.
years.
Oh my God.
Everyone, so many people, a large proportion of people look like a combination of Stripes, aka also Sweet Technique, and Menno combined. That's what a lot of breakers look like. So anyway, so like you talking to these highest level b-boys that are really dope, they all say the same thing and we're in agreement. So I'm not like just off here. But again, I do think people don't
We
remember that
need
like I'm literally face to face with every single
we
top
need
breaker at every level in the world. And so when I'm saying that there's something going on where like, hey, maybe like maybe
your phone is
whoops, I
starting
got
to
you.
break.
Maybe sorry, let me put this back in.
But yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
can you see like real characters popping out in the scene, like a Diaz, like an Aleph, like an Uzi Rock, and then you appreciate this even more,
For sure, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, it's not a lost cause, and it's not like I always have hope for people to like be able to kind of fix that
I mean,
thing,
it's
whatever
never
it
too
is
late,
going on.
right?
And you know what? And also, I was just watching a video. Someone did a kind of cool YouTube little overview video, but like, every scene, or I mean, every era has their trends, and so I
Yeah.
get it. And I'm not trying to completely discount it. And I like to understand what the new gen is thinking or how they're composing things. And there are cool newer compositional elements that are put into breaking in its newer, generations. But there's still also a lot of like people that have no idea about it.
Yes, yes.
So, but yeah, my part of my point, it was just that like when I'm talking about some of these things, it's also like informed as a b-boy and as someone seeing all of the top people, knowing what that looks like. And so when I'm saying something's off here, it's because like, sorry, but I have a pretty good frame of reference
Uh,
for everything that I've seen and the people that I know and having these deep discussions for years and years. So it's just like I'm not the crazy one here. And also I'm not shitting on again some of the newer ways of composing stuff. I'm like, oh cool, okay, that's a little bit different, but I get that too. But
I
it's
mean,
just like
your
there's still,
opinion weighs more than others who are just young guns or just starting out in the scene and everything.
but I feel like if you don't know some of that background or you don't think about it, you're like, what is this DJ? What is he talking
I,
about?
bro, that's why I
You know?
shit here. That's why so people will get to learn and have more knowledge. So
Yeah.
you
But I would say,
remember?
because to finish
Yeah,
that
sorry.
point, because I know that the phone fell for a second, but I was like, I think that again, so for that younger generation, I think the really important thing is like look at your favorite breakers, because inevitably like the favorite breakers of any generation, and like I said, even newer guys and how they're composing stuff, whoever it is, are doing a good job compositionally, like how they're putting a round together. So it's like if you're not winning, or you feel like you're at a plateau, you're like, I have these moves, why is this not happening? Like seriously look at what they're doing that's effective, not fighting their moves, but looking at compositioning, how they're piecing moves together,
Mm.
what it looks like circularly, how they like do, like I call it, it's kind of like physical counterpoint. So in music, like when you have the ideas of like, a musical idea, one musical idea is like going da 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 da, then the bass line of the music, like one melody instrument is going da 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 da, the bass line is going da 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 at the same time, and that counterpoint is kind of creating this cool balance effect that makes the music sound really cool. So similar but very different, obviously, in movement. I haven't put the theory to a test to try to really like, analyze a whole breakers round, but I've been thinking about it in those terms. But in movement, when something goes forward, it's like you notice a lot of people, you go forward in a move, you don't stay there. You do, or maybe you do something forward, move it, and then you reverse it back.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like you balance out physically what is happening on the floor, or you do this half circle, blah, 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 then you complete the circle. Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
It makes
It's
sense. It's like you do
yeah.
windmill, flare, air flare, flare, windmill. You know?
Yes, and it works like, so it works like looking top the circular, it works back and forth, and then it
Yes,
works like looking horizontal going upwards. So
yes.
yes, exactly. So it's just like I think it's a cool concept, and it's something that I've thought of more recently, and I've just seen it being not done so well. So again, it's just like I can't even claim to be a master of it. These other guys are the masters of it. So I'm like, go to all of those favorite breakers of yours, no matter who it is, what
I
era,
mean,
and look at what their composition is, and start to try to understand what I'm talking about. Where it's like, don't copy moves, but copy composition. Start to look at what that looks like to really complete ideas in terms of like the geography of the floor.
mhm. I mean, a dancer is like an instrument at the end of the day. And when you're at a high level as a dancer, you can express the music in your dance. So I can see the bass in your dance. I can see the percussion.
Yes,
I can see the guitar. I can see this. So this is something to watch out if you want to be a dope dancer.
I
Definitely.
think so. Yeah, I think so. But
Yeah.
I like. Go going into these, like, it's kind of going in the weeds, but it's also really important things.
Yeah,
And it's just like,
definitely.
it's not music related, but it's breaking related. And I'm front and center for all this
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
seeing at these, at all these highest levels, lowest level, highest level, whatever. And it's just like, that's one thing recently that's been sticking out of my mind. Like, if people started to understand that more, they do a lot better.
Yes, yes, yes. This is
They do a whole lot
definitely
better.
definitely the key. Of course, then you started out DJing internationally, right? And I guess the biggest name event you ever DJed was the Olympics.
Yeah, that's a little one. That's a little one I did.
You know, so
Yeah.
uh, can you tell us a little bit about how they approached you playing the Olympics and preparing for the Olympics? Did something different than you
I
do?
mean, yeah, definitely. You have to be like super, super, super on point. You can't have any, like, most events. I freestyle a lot. I
Okay.
I see, like, there's a different, whether it's like me playing to the vibe of the room. I want, like, obviously everything I play is gonna be something that people should be able to break to. It's like, could be your favorite, could not be, but it's always gonna be stuff that you can break to. And I want to hopefully make it your favorite, but it's just like all of us DJs. Like, you might be like, oh, I love that song, and all these people, I love that song, and then the specific person that's battling at the time comes up to you after, it's just like, yeah, man, like, everything was dope. Oh, I hate that song. So it's like, there's always like, there's like an absolute favorite that a bunch of people have, and that'll be like the absolutely least favorite of someone else. But in any case, I try to, like, think about the dancers and their histories, and like what's going to activate both sides, what's going to really make a battle hype, what's going to make a room hype, things like that. All of that out the window when you're doing something like the Olympics, because the whole set list, actually per request of the IOC, had to be turned in beforehand,
Okay.
because they don't want any chance of, like, oh, I know that Phil Wizard likes blah 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 song, so when I see him coming battle, like, I switch it real quick and I do this. Like, they wanted complete fairness, so that actually I get totally. So the
Okay.
preparation was all done well beforehand, where it was like every single thing, every battle, every couple of songs or 3 songs, 3 songs that I was playing in that battle had to be turned in for that specific battle. Like, the semifinals for this look like this
Ah,
finals look like this.
okay.
So everything was turned in beforehand. So then,
So
yeah,
Mexican, you already knew you will play Mexican in the final?
yes, yep, yeah, yeah. I pre-planned absolutely everything. But yeah, and that was actually a good amount of work, because it was also, instead of, like, sometimes freestyle, it's like sometimes, like, I could do a mix that's like, maybe it's slightly out of key, or it's just like, it's fun. Like, dancers don't really care. Like, once the first song is on, it's over, it's just like, well, okay, boom, and then go to the next song. But for this, I wanted to make sure, like, everything really flowed very, very, very well, so
Mhm.
that I didn't have any instance of, like, oh, that was a little too rough of a cut, or, oh, that was a little too much of this, or that was too much of that. And so, yeah, just everything was very,
Mhm.
very much planned beforehand, except for, like, scratches and stuff like that. I was
Of
still
course,
rocking
of course.
doubles, I was still doing all that stuff,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
then and
Your
and all of
style.
that. Yeah, and that was, doing it to the beat too. So it's not like it was going to be expected. And I was like, hey,
So,
if you want to kill this, here it goes.
so
There it
you
is. But
prepare the songs. It's a very important decision which songs you will play. Who
yeah,
do you go to and take some advice or ask, hey guys, what do you think? Should I play this or should I play that?
no one. And so this is where I have to give a big shout out. And I think, throughout maybe some of the confusion or a lot of stuff that happened around there, I think maybe DJ One Up didn't feel like he was given enough credit, and he should be, because he really put in a ton of work for curating that whole list of things. And he curated, like, basically, a whole bunch of classics. Like, there would be like UBB classics, like Ultimate Beats and Break classics, but then other classics that were just, like, known in the scene. And even hip hop, like, a lot of hip hop, lesser so than the funk that was approved, but it was like a list of, like, Scenario and, True for Schnickens, whatever, things like that. That was a big list that he was able to compile, and basically had to get all of that stuff, cleared through, I guess, like, the partnership with NBC, through the label he's working with, to clear all through NBC and the Olympics,
Okay.
to make it so that those were possibilities with songs that could be played. So
Mhm.
after, a ton of work on his end, then you had this, big list of songs that were, again, these, like, classics, hip hop, all these different songs. And then those are the ones that were chosen that we got to choose from. So me and Plash chose from those to be able to say, what do we want to play, for these battles. So after, then choosing all those songs, we did our basically bracket like choices for both days for
Yeah,
B girls and then B boys, and then had to have those set turned in
yeah,
to WDSF and then IOC for the IOC to know that like this is the exact way it's going to go. There's going to be no chance of like something different happening for the sake of fairness. So that's was the
so
background of that whole thing, but massively different, massively greater amount of preparation that needed to be done for that versus a regular jam that I'm DJing.
expect the preparation and the restricted songs you could play. Was there any other big difference playing the Olympics than playing freestyle session or any other battle?
Um, I mean, yeah, that was a huge difference, to be honest. I guess, I would say if we put it in context of like, okay, maybe I'm just trying to think. Well, okay, there's two things. Number one, all right, different from, let's say, a Red Bull event, big Red Bull event, is we had this big list of cleared music, from one up and things that we were able to play versus just like, hey, here's this limited Red Bull library. You can only play from
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was one difference. But now, different from a freestyle session, okay, the difference there would be I play some of my own tracks. Like I don't even play that much anymore. Like it just depends. Like I'll play newer stuff, but like some of the songs people know me for that I produced, I'm just like, like maybe I'll throw them in there, maybe not. Maybe I'll throw like a few in for a jam. But what I will play a lot of is like I'll make edits of tracks. So like tracks I think that are dope, and I'll maybe add some extra drums. I'll flip
Yes,
it. I'll do something else. Anything like that was off the table. You couldn't
yes,
play any edits of, oh, I did this edit, like this is our like kind of remix version of this song. It's like, no, it had to be in its original form, and that's how you were gonna play it, and that was approved, or you're not playing it.
mhm,
So that was another big difference. So, it was just like some of the things like again, I'll do edits maybe of newer tracks that I think are cool, but I've sped them up a lot, or I sped up something about it and just like made a beat and then put a vocal on top of it that's like a West Side Gun vocal or something else. It's something that I think is cool. It's like any of those sorts of blends and remixes that I might do,
mhm.
couldn't do them at the
Yeah,
Olympics.
yeah, yeah. Of course, with all the TV rights and shit.
Yeah,
So I guess, it was a success because they showed breaking in prime time, right, on
yeah,
Friday and Saturday, and we have very good winners. Ami is very good representation. Phil Wizard is a very good
yeah.
representation. Of course, everybody just remembers Reagan for being not so good. So tell me, please, your opinion about the breaking not going to LA in 2028.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to your point, and something that was an interesting from my end, I was like proud about the music. I was really proud about how we were putting it together.
That
And
was the
again, like
best part of the event for me.
yeah, it was great. We got to play all those, and it's just like again, and that's why like it's just dawned on me more that it's like really that the French folks that were handling that do need to be given their props because like it's this American culture, but like the French have had a pretty cool history of their own, but also just like a uh, kind of reputation for really taking culture seriously. And I was really happy that that was taken that seriously to get those songs to be able to be played. And it's like, yeah, it's just like it wouldn't have been possible without their work on that. Like, think of how different the Olympics would have been, where you couldn't even say, okay, the moves. Obviously, all the people that won represented it great, but then the people that you know, like even if they had won and had done well, if the music was just complete garbage, it would have just been like, well, that was kind of cool, but then it'd be like, what are we
Yes,
doing here? Why are
yes,
we playing this? Weirdo, just like only new breaks, like not even mad at all of the newer sound of breaks and whatever. I don't like a lot of it. I don't even play, like I said, a lot of my own. But in any case, if we were only limited to that, that would have kind of sucked to have that as the representation for our dance for the whole of the Olympics. When it comes to, the last thing I'll say about that is sorry, I just want to make sure this phone doesn't fall here. The last thing I'll say about that is why is this one to give me trouble here? Um, yep. See, I knew it. 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 There we go. A pro step I got here. But the last thing I'll say about that is that part of that Americanness, of it starting from here was also like on my end. Like I had people like I was texting with DJ Spinner like as we were in the battle. Like was in contact with a lot of people that I knew from before, but for me it was something very special in that respect because musically it wasn't just like, all right, musically you could have some randos from wherever in the world, they were like, oh, it's just music, whatever. And I know there's that kind of, I really could care less. What I was really proud about is the fact that like those really important people in the culture, OGs, veterans, whatever we want to call them, from different, across, not just in the breaking scene. So it wasn't just like, oh, Ken Swift thought like the music sounded cool or whatever. It's like, no, like I had people from all different walks of hip hop, like
Mhm.
DJs, etc. They were like, yo, that was dope. So they didn't, none of us liked the ray gun focus or anything like that, but they did like the fact that like the music portion was represented right. So I was really proud about that and happy to be a part of that. And again, we need to give the shout out to One Up and the French people, for your French team, for making that
Yeah,
be
I
able to
mean,
be
it's just
represented like that, because it would have been completely different. Like imagine if I said, oh, I DJ'd the Olympics, and then to whoever, to some of these guys, and I was playing complete just like whatever music,
yeah,
they would give me the OG kind of like, and like it wouldn't be, that'd be it. But instead
yeah.
it was like me, just being able to connect with some of them on that tip of like, they all know those records. They all know that very well. So now like cut to, the 2028, like that was already decided beforehand. Like, look, bro,
Ah, really?
that
Huh?
was already, yeah, that was already
Huh.
decided before. It was before it came on. So this stuff comes down to money, man. Like it's just money.
It's
And it's
just
like,
Olympics is business.
it's business, exactly. It's nothing more. And that's why, like in France, there was actually a possibility of that happening because, again, they do have this cultural mindset. It's really kind of messed up. But like historically, even with like
Yes.
jazz, and things like that, there have been tons of artists from the US that could barely scrape by a living here. And then they would go to Paris, or they'd go to, Amsterdam or these other cities, specifically Paris, though, and be able to like actually make a living on it
Yes, yes,
because they valued it culturally.
yes.
So
Many people that do that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like it's a messed up thing, but that's what it is. So now we're back in the homeland of it. Technically, it's just like, okay, we're back in the US. Like this would be the opportunity to be able to like, hey, again, we had our debut. Let's continue that in the US where we're at. And then it was just like, again, that was already decided prior to the Olympics, but it was like it's just pure money. And it was like, who has $10 million to give to the city of Los Angeles? The city of Los Angeles, like, hey, Olympics are here. You want to be a part of this? Pay up. Let me see that money. And if you don't have that, if we as a community haven't like kind of wooed the corporate sponsors enough, it's just hard because also what we're going against, like what's going to be in the 2028 Olympics. I don't know if it's going to be in continually, but there's flag football. So flag football sounds ridiculous. It's like, flag, I say, where did that come from? But then you find out that Patrick Mahomes, like very popular quarterbacks,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
with like millions of dollars, with big, like they already are sponsored by Nike. They're already on commercials. They're already doing all these things.
Uh-huh.
They are slated to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. So it's like breaking. Think about your favorite breaking heroes. Okay, we love them, but
Yeah.
like their popularity versus like
Yes,
American
they are
football,
not
like
superstars. They are not superstars.
it's
I
just, yeah,
also heard,
it's just another level. So
I
that
also
that
heard
was the
they put
reason.
I also heard they're gonna put cricket in, and cricket
Oh, I didn't know that.
cricket is the national sport of India. India has almost 2 billion people living there.
Yeah,
The thing also is what I heard, when you go to a sports store, you know, you can go and buy football gear, you can buy basketball gear,
it's
cricket
true.
gear. You can't buy breaking gear.
Yeah, there's something to sell. So there's always that angle of it too. There's something to sell. It's already popular, but then
Yeah.
there's more things because like breaking, I guess you buy like a hat. Maybe you buy like one of the floors, like a metal floor, or
I buy this in the baseball section. I buy my pads in the volleyball section.
that's
I buy my
true.
wristband in the tennis section, you know?
That's true. We're not, bro. We don't have enough to sell. We're not selling enough.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
realness,
no, that's
the
that's
realness
definitely
doesn't help us.
no, it doesn't. But that's yeah, like, but that's obviously what makes this so dope as a culture and
Yeah.
so beautiful. Is like, what do you need? Oh, nothing. You just go like, oh, someone's doing it right there. How do I feel? Like, all right, let me stretch out and just go right there and do it.
From,
Like
from
that's what makes it ill. That's
nothing
why it
to
started. Was
nothing
people that
everything.
had nothing. They didn't have anything. They were just like, what can we do that's cool that with our bodies? How can we express ourselves? How can we just like kind of like get out? We all it's like pent up energy, rage, how you're feeling, whatever it is. Like all that comes out on the
We
floor.
we literally created this thing from nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
From nothing.
yeah. It's nuts. So it's like you know
Mhm.
there's a beauty in that too, but it's like, shucks, we don't have anything to sell.
Yeah,
Guess we can't.
yeah, and back then it was connected with struggle, and you had to hustle, and you had to be hard, and your character had to be tough and everything,
Yeah.
and nowadays you don't need these attributes anymore.
Well, and there's always that sort of like I feel like that tension because like now and big shout out to the youth generation, the kids. Like there's some amazing talent there that you never sort of saw in that same way. And of course, you have parents that are supporting them, but then a lot of the parents in a lot of these cases are like from maybe the suburbs and just like regular parents, well, middle
Uh,
class, whatever it is.
they
And so
started on the streets. They started in dance schools.
they started in dance schools, but then when they come to these events, they don't want it to be like, oh, it's hardcore hip hop music with like cursing and this and that or whatever. And it's just like on one hand, like I don't want to like subject kids to like, oh, you got to listen to this like a crazy subject matter. At the same time,
We
without
had no choice as kids.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. And at the same time, I'm also just like, but this is just like a part of it. But again, these are little incongruencies that make it harder for us to be like, here's our commercial appeal. Here it is. It's like because like part of the fiber of our being was like, we don't want a commercial appeal. We want to have
Oh
this.
no, we're not
So just
mainstream. We are not mainstream.
yeah, like we want it to be raw. Well, and it's like now there's some combination of it, like even with a Red Bull battle or something like that, there's like a mainstream-ish
I
element
mean,
to it.
I
But like
mean the whole pop.
we're always trying to like fight within that tension, whether it's like, you know, kids leagues and kids whatever, and then, a raw cipher kind of thing, or
Mhm,
it's like corporate event, and then here's like, a dope local raw
mhm.
event, whatever. There's always this sort of tension going on, but like I think a lot of us get and it's like we don't even have to necessarily pick one or the other, but a lot of us get the most fulfillment not from a stage battle, but from like just being with some of our best friends, and people that we fuck with around us, right? In a cipher.
This is why we dance, right? Because we had a crew, we had friends. That was our second family.
Yeah.
We're just with our friends and dancing all day, you know?
And I see that everywhere I go, and I see it more and more. And like that's something where it's like I don't like I was talking about, I do try to understand and be, mindful of newer generations, way they're interpreting like, well, we want to do it this way. We want to do these moves this way. Might not love all of it, but I'm like, okay, cool. Like I want to see what progression is or like what your version of it is because like you need to have something to like call your own. But something else that I see a lot is a lot of them, and into a really good thing. Like this is what I'm trying to say. Good things about the generation two is that, and it's maybe similar to other generations, but it's like they want something that feels real. Everything around in their life is curated by an algorithm, right? Like all of their like swiping. So it's like no offense to any the breakers. Some breakers might be putting out their authentic self, and that gets a ton of clicks. But then others like the easiest way to get a more viral video is something kind of catered to in a certain way. And so it's
Uh,
like no hate also for breakers, doing that because maybe they have to do it to gain a following to then be able to like get booked and do whatever. But I'm just saying that like when things are so much presented that way, it's like you have to cater towards like this is the reason I don't really use TikTok. It's like TikTok median age is like 13, and it's just like, hey, do you want to make videos for 13-year-olds? Personally, nope, no, I don't. And I'm not saying other stuff doesn't exist on there that
no,
could be cool,
Didi.
but I'm just not trying to do that. Yeah, no Diddy. Like I'm just not trying to do that. And when you're inundated with that day after day, then what becomes really important to you is not a commercially appealing type of event. You're like, give me the event that feels good, that feels real, that feels like the reason I got into this, which is just like express myself, be with the homies, etc. So to that younger generation's credit, I think a lot of them do want that. They want that out of an event. So just like the typical stage event, whatever, it might be cool for them. They're going to want to look at footage, but in terms of where they really want to go to feel a vibe, it's going to be these maybe other smaller events. And I like that about it. And, I'm in full support of that. It's like, yeah, like, you see it now, like, let's get back to what we feel, not
This
just like what looks good. A lot of times what looks good
is
is not that cool or
now
just like
that you
doesn't feel
mentioned
that good.
now that you mentioned with the algorithm and shit, and now you have this phenomenon that whack dancers have a ton of following, but never make the top 16. Like they have uh, 400,000 followers, but when they enter a jam, they never saw the semifinals, and then the problem is these people get chosen to represent us, and they whack. They represent.
Yeah, it's like the people that represent breaking because they have the most followers are the people again that are going for that commercial appeal. But then it means a lot of times that their moves and the way that they're doing things are very flashy. But it's just like we're for those of us in it for a while, we're just kind of like, whatever.
The real ones know. The
Yeah,
the
the real ones know, and there are exceptions of people that can balance both. Like they
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah, yeah.
get maybe a viral video or something with like a lot of clicks and whatever, but then also like they're actually just crazy dope. Like they're ill with it. So I'm not mad at that at all. And I really try not to be like bitter or weird about
Oh,
like
of course, of course.
anyone
And
doing the thing the way they do. But I just like I'm looking on a certain level in terms of patterns of things and what people are feeling or not. So it's like just because something got a lot of views or got whatever, it's like that doesn't mean people are feeling it. That generally people are feeling. That means that had an appeal to this certain very general audience. It's like I don't think we want to appeal to them, bro. Like I don't think that's the people. I don't think that's the people's taste that we want to actually appeal to.
and they
So
also don't
that's why it's like
understand it.
no, no, not at all,
Not
not
their
at all.
cup of tea.
I mean, someone mentioned. I forgot what I was. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I listened to a lot of comedy. I like in comedy podcasts and all these other things. But like one of them I was listening to recently was like going viral is like the worst thing that could happen to you, and probably because it's like it's just something that again appealed to the masses, but that's usually not who you're going for as your target
Yeah.
audience. So it's just like basically it's going to be a couple of things. Either it's one and done and it never happens again, and then you're the Hawk Tuah girl or you're
I
the
just
whatever
wanted to say, I
like
just wanted to say
yeah,
hack too,
you're
brother.
you're like that but the comedy version or you're like that but the dance version whatever,
I
and it's just like
mean,
that's the only thing you're known for, and it's just like do you is that what you want, is this
the
what you want for your
perfect
life?
example, bro, the perfect example is Raygun. This is the perfect example. She went viral for being whack, so
Yeah,
is that really something you can be proud about, and
yeah, I would say probably not. And then it's also like, what do you want to do? You want to repeat? You want to have each time like you
bro,
repeat
20
basically the moves that people are clowning you for
hey,
to be able to continue to do like public events or public whatever it is or like do a talk
bro,
show. It's
the
like wait,
effort.
you want to keep repeating that where everyone is just looking at you and laughing at you. You don't want people laughing at you. You want you laughing with you maybe, but not at you.
Yeah.
And so if everything you've done is just this like is just based off of kind of like I don't know,
It,
yeah, just something
I
that
mean, it
is
turned really ugly real fast. And, I saw her at IBE. And I did a podcast before she went to the Olympics with her, so I got to know her already. And
uh-huh.
I saw her at IBE and the first day I see her, and she was really like, she didn't really want to look at people. And then I saw her, I started talking with her, but I didn't mention the Olympics because I didn't want,
Right, yeah.
her private thing. And then on the third day, the last evening, we talked again, and I asked her, "Hey, how were the people? They treated you good and everything?" And they said, in the scene, everybody treated her all right. It's just the people out of the scene. And she even had the folder in her phone with all the favorite memes people did about her.
Yeah, I will say that I gave it a lot of grace. I gave the situation, but I think a lot of people in the scene also at first were just like, man, we don't love it, or this is weird, past a weird light. But we're just like, okay, we'll deal with it. But I will say eventually, I did come out and have to say stuff because I was just like kind of sick of her
Of course.
dominating those headlines, which that part wasn't her fault. But also, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I never once heard her mention the winners, the actual winners of the Olympics. I never once heard her mention.
That's a good point.
I never once heard, like, in these different interviews, I never once heard her mention, like, hey, yeah, I know you guys like my little thing, and maybe she could even stand by her art. All good, and just be like, you thought what I did was like cool, or like kind of just like whatever, silly, and you like that part of it. But like, we should also think about generally what this dance is, where it comes from, what communities it comes from,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how it was birthed, like how many sentences that took, like 2 sentences, like any recognition of like, this is bigger than me. Yes, thank you for this, like random crazy publicity that I'm getting, but just so you know, like, I know that this is bigger than me. I know that this comes from stuff that means a lot deeper things than just like like
Yeah, yeah.
there's so much more to it, and just a recognition of that in any capacity would have been like, bet I appreciate, like, like you're letting other people know you're using your platform. This is the main thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
using
yeah.
the platform that you have to elevate other aspects of it that made you be able to do what you do today. So
Mhm,
none of that
mhm.
for, and I gave her a bunch of months, so none of that. And then I just saw, like, oh, now she's suing this comedy group because whatever. Now she's doing this, and it was just
Yeah,
like, that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, yeah, I can't really like. It's not like I ever was like, oh, this is the best ever. But I was just like, I'll reserve judgment. I just want to see what happens with it.
yeah.
And I really think it was handled in the wrong way. It's my personal opinion, but I think a lot of people also were like, we don't like this, we're kind of, but we're like, we don't want to come down on a person. We don't want to make them have mental health,
I mean,
issues, anything like that. And so we're like, we reserve the judgment to a point, but then at the point where it starts to like be like, yo, like, you're just taking from this, you're not giving
yeah,
anything,
yeah.
and you're not acknowledging things, and you're just doing everything in kind of the worst way possible. All right, now I have to like kind of mention that I don't mess with this.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the thing was why our scene also, I think, was upset and everything is because the way the media treated her, like, uh how is she the best? How can this be? How can that be? But this is the rules of the Olympics, and nobody from the scene said that her performance was dope. We just said, hey, she qualified. That's the rules. So she's
Yeah,
there. But nobody says, hey, she's dope. She represents us on the highest level.
right.
I think that's where many people started to take her side and everything. But if you look at the points you said, yeah, yeah. I mean, she gained from 2,000 followers when I did the podcast with her. She's now at 200,000.
Yeah, yeah. But again, this is where, so back to our original thing we were talking about, like, I don't care. Think about who those followers are. Like, do you need people like that? I mean,
Bravo.
if
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you want to continue, doing like high school graduation ceremonies or something like that, okay, awesome. Like, maybe that following is good. But if you want to be a real person within this scene, and like, yeah, I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Like, that's what I'm saying. It depends on what you're aspiring to. Like, if that's your goal, or you want to do like an off-brand Cheetos that's in Australia commercial, like, hey man,
Yeah.
hey, do your thing. But personally, for a
Bro.
lot of us, that's not our goal. Is to try to, like, just gain followers
Uh,
that are just like, what are they fans of? At the end of the day, they're a fan of novelty. You
mhm.
want a bunch of people that are fans of novelty. That's basically like being a fan of nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, congrats, you appeal to people that,
Uh,
like, they're just like, ooh, it's a novel thing, and that's like their main reason that they're following you. I'm like, I'm good on that. I
yeah.
think most of us are kind of good. It seems like that would be cool, but it's not something that actually is even good for you, because
No, no,
then you're
no.
gonna put then like, let's say she does put up a video with something real, and
Most
maybe it is something important, then it's gonna get no traction and be like, well, we want to see you do the kangaroo move again. Like, it's like,
she will never,
you
she
don't
will
want to be
never,
known for that.
she will never enter any big major competition again, for sure. You won't see her competing anymore, for
I would
sure.
guess that, yeah.
But maybe she
If it
brings
does,
it
all
back.
good. I'm also not like
Maybe she
she
brings it
full
back to
disclosure,
Australia.
full disclosure, she did block me because I had some choice words to say, which I think is hilarious. And I'm like, I wear that as a badge of honor. It's like, bro, some of us gotta talk our shit, man. We gotta say what's really going on. Because all I said was exactly what I just said here,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is just like, where was that acknowledgement? Where was anything? And so I'm like, I'm good on that. But you know what? At the same time, too, just so it's not seen as like bad blood. I'm like, I don't care. Enter something like that's cool. Get better. Like, keep going. Do that stuff. But it's just like there is a certain point where I'm gonna have to say what I feel about it. At the same time, though, like maybe she'll decide not to do anything, but I'm not like leave the scene, don't do anything. It's just like
Yeah.
whatever,
I
like
mean, I mean to finish
do your
this
thing.
up, taking without giving back is never right.
Correct. Yeah, that's kind of like
Yes.
my main point of that.
Uh,
But anyway, but yeah,
so
but yeah,
yeah,
to our point about that, it's just like you want to be curating an audience of people that really are into what you're doing, not just randos. You don't want
yes,
viral fame, I don't think.
just because it's the new trend, right?
Right. Because
So
it's novel and it's gonna be
okay,
there for a second and gone.
we have now the part where we do the fave five, right? Where we talk about your favorite five things. It can be five, it can be also one, but we want five, right? So we always start classic. Your favorite five b-boys all time. Doesn't matter in their prime. Doesn't matter the order. Just five b-boys.
Shit. All right. Ken Swift, um, Abstract.
Hmm.
Let's see. Three more. I gotta choose wisely here. What are we gonna choose? Um, yeah, it's kind of tough. I gotta say, why not for Top Rock? I mean, for everything, but like, man, it's just like it's insane. Always inspires me. Um, two more. Two more. Man, you're making me think. I don't like thinking.
That's the point, brother.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's think. Hmm. I'll just throw it out there, and it's just like it's sort of doesn't it fit in a certain way, but it does.
There is no wrong answer, right?
Jamal from Predators, his power is like,
Ooh.
bro, his power is like his second to none, man. It's just so
His
ill,
windmills.
bro. It's nuts. Like that's it's insane flow with the like his ground power is amazing. All right, and last one. There's I'm sure there's like a lot of great people that I'm missing here. And then I'm gonna kick myself later for like, why don't I mention that person? Why don't I do this or that? I'm just trying to actually kind of cover all bases, like who do I like in power, who do I like in this, who do I like overall style. Um, I will say, okay, this is gonna be random, and it's just like it's top five in a certain respect, but it's like in like a style of footwork that I don't see that much anymore. Is like Zulu Gremlin, so it's like
Ooh, Gremlin.
kind of random, but I'm like that. Just like instead of footwork being this really like kind of like very specific nerded out version of it, which I also appreciate sometimes, but like just pure foundation. Boom, 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 and fast as fuck. Fast as like pure foundation, and just looks like sharp blades going everywhere, like and just like constantly put together in that certain way. And I'm just thinking of like specific footage of it. It's like as a b-boy overall, I can't I don't want to say it, overall like, oh, you killed it in so many battles, you did this or that, but I'm just like I will, for the style of footwork of what that is, I'm like that's always ill to me.
Nice. I mean, it's a very good list, and like I said, there is no wrong answers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Big girls.
You girls, Beta
Mm.
for sure. Um, let's think. Solstice, she's from around our area, also our crew. She was in Lionz Design as well. Um, let's see. Um, might have to put San Andrea on there.
San Andrea, yes.
Style is sick. Um, two more. I think I Yumi because I always like
Yumi,
just
yes.
like that she like really like kind of started I feel like a trend or like just an ability to show what you girls were capable of in a lot of different ways. Then last one. uh, It's kind of tough. Um,
I mean, we can leave it at four. You don't need to choose a fifth.
yeah, I'm trying. Oh, I'm trying to think of someone also like, like more OG-ish B-girls that were nasty. But of which ones that I don't know that I really liked from that era. Just to like I try to my favorites like cover all bases. But yeah, we'll leave it for it. If I think of
Okay.
one, an OG
Maybe it
one.
pops out. Maybe it pops out later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, of course, your favorite five DJs.
Oh, let's see. Charisma
Mhm.
from Baltimore, Lacey for just like pure, kind of what he brought to the scene and like being a big inspiration to a lot of us.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Let's see who else. Oops. Uh, let me think. Um, Rich Medina,
Ooh, okay.
I
Also
put him there. What's that?
USA, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Rich Medina. Um, hmm. What a name three?
I actually like that you take it this serious. I like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I'm like,
I love it.
I don't know. There's list people. There's also like, there's different styles. Like Charisma is like an epic house producer and
Yes.
DJ, and it's just like he definitely influenced my style a lot. And also just seeing him spin live, he's nuts. He's absolutely crazy. Oh, that's a good one. Speaking of nuts, DJ Nuts.
You do not.
Yeah, DJ Nuts from Brazil, insane Brazilian stuff, and then DJ Spinna.
DJ.
Spinna is the
Uh,
man.
Rock
He's
the
so
House,
dope.
yo. The first 2 years I dance Rock the House, yo. I listened to at least 50 times a day.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's incredible, and it's funny too because like I get it. There's a lot of people that just don't know like who the artist is or this, but I'm like oh it's Spinna, like he did that song, like I know
Uh,
dun, 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 rock the house y'all, like, and it's just like then people hear like oh that guy, and it's like he's a friend now, he's a homie, like
it's the best
but
part.
he also though when he spins like he's a beautiful example. Like a lot of these guys that I mentioned, not all of them, but some of them, like a Spinna or a Rich Medina, have such a good ability to know when to kind of turn on the hip hop
Okay.
ishness and
Okay.
then when to not. So it's like Spinnable, like he'll do gas sing and he'll cut it up and he'll loop it. Then after that, he'll start playing, classic disco, like dope disco or dope funk, and he'll just be like playing it as a disco or like, house DJ, not trying to scratch it, not having to do that. But it's like he just knows when to turn it
I mean,
on or
while
off.
we talk about that, I have to give you a massive shout out because the first and only time I was at Outbreak, you played the Friday pre-party.
Mm.
It was one of the best parties I ever been. Your selection was so on point, bro.
Oh shit, thank you, brother. I
Because we
appreciate that.
talk about this now, I wanted to put it somewhere in the podcast, and now I found it where to put it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I never assume. I'm like, I appreciate that for real. Like,
No, no, it was amazing, brother. Amazing. The vibe you created was really dope.
that's what's up, man. Thank you so much.
And the cheap Jägermeister also helped, you know.
Oh yeah, Jaeger, all that. You get, bro. I had so many times for Outbreak Europe that I was picked up in the Jägermeister van. I'm like, bro,
Oh shit, that's nice.
this is next level, bro. This is next level.
That's nice. So, five of your favorite events you ever played.
Yeah, now see now I got Win going, so I'll switch to this. Um, Favorite events I ever played. Okay, easily like probably the best ever was Outbreak 10, the last one in the U.S.
Okay.
That also gave me a big like kind of start to be able to start doing international stuff. Like that's when after that was 2013 and 2014. Shell's Battle Pro hit me up to DJ that, and it's just like, so yeah, like big shout, like that was crazy.
Hmm.
Rest in peace, Mex. Mex like put a lot of us on and really did dope shit for the scene. So that's like number one. Um Breakers Delight 3, which like again people around me would know it, other people, might not know that, but it was just like an epic, like in a snowstorm and just like incredible vibe. And that was when there was like 3-4 jams in a year or two. So it was like, stood out a whole lot. I have to say the king of what the first one I did here in New York, where I had Large Pro and Static Selecta on it, and it was just like just pure hip hop vibes. Destroy from the Arsonist was the host, and it was just pure dopeness, man. That was so sick. So what's that?
Three.
That was 3. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think like, do I put
There's
the
a lot right there. There's a lot.
yeah, do I put the Olympics on there? Like
I
that
mean,
was
bro, it's very
I think for level and just like the sake of like what it was, like I
and
did have the like thought about it about
there
like,
will
wow, this
there
is
will
nuts.
never be a first time breaking at Olympics.
Yeah,
So
there might not be an ever next
or
time.
never
Yeah,
ever.
yeah. So we'll put that there, not for like pure vibe, but it was like a
Very
pride,
special.
a special, yeah. And again, it was like specifically to be able to play that music for what I knew was going to be this large audience that never probably a lot of them even were exposed to it. What else? Events. I'm just trying to think like what the craziest events that I've done. Like I will say probably like as a whole, just like all of the local events that I do in on the East Coast, like East Coast of the US, like events like, some of us like move wise, I think Europe is like median level of breaker move wise is definitely ahead. But like vibe wise, I just like the Northeast is the best. Like you come here and it's like people are gonna let you know if they like the song. Maybe they'll let you know if they don't like the song or they don't like something. But it's like everything is like just out in the open, up front. And it's
Mhm.
like, so then when you get people going, like just people have such a good time, and so that's them really goes across like all these like any number of like little small local events, but they're just all so dope.
You have the real feedback, right?
Yeah, and just like people that again, in terms of like the being a part of the culture, not just like I'm a part of breaking, but just overall music culture. Like they understand, like you play a certain song, you play a certain classic, you play a hip hop song, whether it's just nostalgia, but it's also people growing up with this music. People really respond. So I'd
Mhm.
say that as just like a whole. And then I guess number 5, it's hard to put a number 5 after that. I'm like,
I mean, you
hmm.
said like in general, like the local, so we can take that as well.
Yeah, local Northeast breaking scene
I
US,
mean, yes.
Yeah.
So then we're gonna build now the perfect breakup, right? We have all the four elements: top rock, freezes, power, and footwork, and then we add flavor and fashion.
Hmm.
Start with top rock. Who has your best top rock?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah, you also mentioned it before, right?
Yeah.
So footwork.
Hmm. Well, I guess we call it abstract, like
Now you're gonna mention the five from the first.
kind
Oh,
of,
power
yeah.
moves. Power moves.
Yeah, you already know, man. Jamal. Easy.
Freezes.
Easy. Freezes. That one I didn't really cover. I didn't even say physics, and the physics is nasty, but he's also like that's not exactly my exact fit. It's so super dope,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's so difficult that it's like it's hard for me even to. It's not that I'm not a fan of it. I'm a fan of it, but it's just like it's so crazy that I'm like, what's realistic here to build a
Fuck off.
breaker? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, like what's a realistic one? So like, yeah, for freezes, like let's go with rocks. Let's put rocks right.
He's a very a good choice. Everybody chooses him over.
Of course.
So then, of course, flavor.
Mm. Mm. That's tough. Who's I gonna mention? Again, maybe just Ken Swift.
Oh, Kenny, come on. Kenny's flavor.
Just
And
gotta throw
last
it
but
in.
not least, the lost one, fashion.
The what?
Fashion. Like you built the perfect breaker, and how is he dressed? Like
Oh,
which
fashion. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Probably like again, Ken Swift, like that outdoor footage when he had like I think it was like an all red outfit on, something
in New
like that.
York in the park.
Yes. Yeah. Like
90s,
I
90s Kenny. We call it
90s
90s Kenny.
yeah, exactly. 90s Kenny. Yeah, that like and
Yeah.
it's like it's funny. It's just like seeing someone break in that and then how much that stands out is just like that's sick.
So Mr. Flag's perfect breaker has the top works of Why Not, the footwork of Abstract, the palm moves of Jamal, the freezes of Rockstrite, the flavor of Kenny, and it's just like, oh my God, who is talking there?
That's hard, man.
We have other guests too. We have
I,
other
I,
guests too.
I know. I was like, I like the best, bro. I'm sorry. What are you gonna do?
So to finish it up, yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine alien comes, they want to take over the world, and they say, Mr. Flag, you have to choose the best 5 breakers that USA ever produced in their prime. Who do you choose
Mm,
to battle the aliens?
mm. All right. Yeah. So like, definitely Kenny's in there. Um. Uh. Kamel is in there. I only make the face because
And we talk about dancing, not the other shit.
right. Yeah. But he's got to be in there.
Yes.
Top five. So the next three, the other three to showcase it. Um.
It's about saving the world.
Yeah. I put Kid David in there. Let's see Ruin.
Woo! Man, in his prime, my God, don't battle him.
That's the homie too. That's shout out Ruin, but that's not because of homie status. That's just because like yeah,
Yes.
man,
Yeah, no, definitely.
nuts.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm just like of course I'm like gonna be forgetting people. Um, yeah, number five. You know what? I'm gonna go. Damn, I didn't get to mention much of my crew. I'm gonna do a double. I'm gonna do a Toys and Domkey double special.
What were they called when they battled the Butcher Brothers?
Oh yeah, I forget. They were like dressed as nerds. Yeah, whatever. That's just known as the Bucho Brothers battle. But
Bro, this is so amazing. This is so amazing.
it was that was pretty incredible. That was definitely like an
Yes.
era. Like yeah, I like that one.
I want all the people need to watch this battle. It's very important in breaking history.
In a certain way, yeah,
So
Bucho
yeah,
Brothers.
I guess the world will be saved. Yes, I'm sorry, aliens, but you can't beat these guys.
Yes, yeah, no, that's a good squad
So
right there.
yeah, brother, thank you so much for taking your time.
No
Uh,
doubt, man.
it was really amazing to hear your stories and your opinions. And last but not least, I want to give you one more shout out because we live in the era from produced beats, right?
Hmm.
And you made it possible to have a sound that is really natural sound. Like you can't really tell that you make it in the studio.
Yeah,
One thing that I always said was we need for these beats that always are instrumental, we need a woman who sings about love. you know.
yeah.
And you did it.
I do have it. And actually to that point, and this is actually a good way to end it too, is literally today I just got in the mail the full record that I did. So a full album, not everything is like, at break speed or whatever, but the full album is stuff that I produced and composed, but not produced like no samples, nothing. Like I composed everything with the band, with my band. And so that came into my house today, which is
Nice.
crazy. And so I finally have physical copies of it. That full album of the East Coast Affair has been played, at the Olympics, at
Nice.
BC Ones, all over all these places. and it exactly had that purpose where it still sounds natural to be played in theirs. Whereas like other beats that I produced, like doing this, like
Yes, yes,
hip hop production, maybe it's popular for a couple of years, and it's kind of like, we've heard enough, and that goes for a lot of our beats. But this album I produced specifically to be like, this should just sound natural enough that like it's not going to have an expiration date. It's always going to be something that sounds right for breaking.
timeless, right?
It had timeless, yeah. It has the breaks in there. It has these other things. It's the song's about something. Like a lot of the songs that I wrote, it was 2020, so it's just like crazy shit going on, and a lot of protests in the U.S. and a lot of all of that.
From
So
the
like,
struggle, everything comes from the struggle.
yeah, I just like felt it important that like, okay, I'm gonna make these songs. They're for breaking. They're for this purpose. Okay, that's one layer or one level to appreciate it on. But the other level to think about is like, if you actually listen to what's being said, it's like it's about what's going on around it, and maybe our government sucks, or maybe like these other things, like, and just being critical in those ways while not while still putting it in the breaking format. But in any case, like, yeah, so that was stuff that I spent a lot of time, very difficult to put that all together and make it sound good.
You can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it. The quality is definitely there.
I appreciate that, and
So,
so I'm just excited that finally is going to be out in physical form, and then I'm going to put it out on Spotify. Coming out, yeah. When I'm over in Europe, I'll have copies of it for sale.
You can buy it online too.
I will make a way for doing that. But
send
like
me the link, I can put it in the description, and people can, when they watch it, they can click on the link then.
Okay, actually, good idea. Yeah, and also for some people, if you're in Europe, I'm going to be in Europe for 5 weekends, so I'm going to be there for a while, like almost a month, in like all of August.
So all of August.
Yeah, because I'm doing like Outbreak, then I'm doing Cyphertown, doing Siget. I forget how to pronounce this. The
Hungarian festival.
Yes, yep, yeah. Then I'm doing IBE, and then I'm doing UK Champs. So for a bunch of these
two, IBE.
Sounds great. Yeah, and so for you too, if you want to grab a copy, maybe I'll figure out a way to order it online, be able to pay for it. But then I bring it over specifically and save the copy and have your name on it and be able to find you like at IBE or wherever. So
nice,
yeah,
definitely.
I'm excited to have like those physical copies, and the records look dope. Like I'm hyped for it.
I mean, I'm a big fan, so I will be happy. So,
thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Any last word and shout out?
Hey, shout out to you for asking great questions. This is a very thorough interview. This is super dope, and I appreciate it being able to get the time to kind of like go on like little tangents, but be able to explain, a lot about a lot of this stuff. And shout out to my crew, LOZ, all the homies from New York that have been really supportive since I've moved here, and everyone worldwide that supported and had kind words, or supported it monetarily, however it is on the music. I'm always trying to uplift and even be better myself. So I'm excited to be able to come back to Europe this summer and show you some new stuff and hang out with everyone.
I'm happy to see you again, brother. And for all the viewers and listeners, it's time to subscribe now. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers.
Let's go.
Up, it goes a long way. Notification on, you never miss a video. Every Sunday we have a podcast for you. Become a patron. You can support us every month.
Support this man.
And you will get all the podcasts in the beginning of the month. You don't have to wait like all the other people. And when you watch this video, we're already in July. And that means we have a new partner. Yes, so shout out to Bottega Palma, for the collab. And shout out to all the Patreons. You can listen now. Follow us on Instagram. Follow this gentleman on Instagram on his journey. Look out for the next beats he puts out. And that was your favorite breaking show with your favorite Bboy host.